Well, I think we could keep going, couldn't we?
We could. So, but if you can see, all of these things are sins, aren't they? I'm using rage at myself or others. I'm distracting. I'm not engaging my free will choices. I'm living a very passive life. Drugs, sex, alcohol, junk food, indiscriminately, any way to avoid. Competing with others, condescending, harming others in the way I've been harmed, controlling others, using others, being numb, intellectualizing, getting away from my own lived experience. All of these are my sins. These are all my sins. So this tiny bit of pain,
Could have been felt.
I could have chosen at any point to just have a good cry about the fact that someone was really nasty to me about my feelings when I was 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I chose to do all these other things
Instead.
that God attributes to me. I don't know where to stand. I'm a rookie at this. It's so wonderful. So, and God's attributing all of that sin because that's the use of my free will. Yeah. This is someone else's free will when they made fun of me. And it got locked up in me.
Yeah.
But I had the choice to feel that, but instead I do all these things. And usually, if we look at them, we're doing them on a daily, if not hourly basis.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask the reverse. So, are we to assume that if you are doing these things, then it's really this one sin, or could this also be related to another sin?
Yeah, we could.
Okay.
Let's put something else.
So it's not just like one-to-one that.
No.
Okay.
This is I do this.
It's very personal what you choose to
Yes,
do.
and it's very personal what you're avoiding.
That is,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. But it has the same, or it might have similar or the same results.
Yeah, you might. This
Yeah.
is you.
Let's
This
say
is really.
the parents made fun of me playing with myself sexually.
Yeah. Of
Right? So
sexual
of
exploration.
masturbation. Right. So then I might do a whole heap of things,
Which is the same.
which may end up being similar, mightn't they, or different, depending on how I express myself to a large degree. Yeah.
Okay.
And really we're saying, when I call these things your sin, these are actually the effects of your sin. These are the actions you're taking of your sin. Your sin is, I shouldn't have to feel this thing. But because these things are all me engaging my will and often affecting the free will choices of others, that
I even start now using them to develop more false beliefs.
more justifications for
Does that
not
make
feeling.
sense? I start using what I do to create more false beliefs. So let's say, an example is, let's say I start taking some drugs, but it's just marijuana.
Yeah.
So I start, what do they call it in other places? Plant medicine. Yeah, which is all quite strange. But let's say I start taking marijuana, and then I start feeling like it's not enough. It's not enough. But also in marijuana, you're going to be you're going to be very open to spirit influence.
Spirits.
So now I'm potentially going to attract some spirits who want me to keep taking drugs, right? And different kinds of drugs, and increase the intensity of the drugs and increase the type of drugs. Or I'll attract some spirits who want to take control of my body even, and then I get schizophrenia as a result. You know, so
Or they might want me to take risks, like risk taking,
Like
that I wouldn't
mountain
otherwise
climbing
engage.
without ropes and all these other things that often people do, and so we're actually then having more beliefs like so we're creating more false beliefs which then will feed into more future things that we choose to do. So it's sort of like, you could say that every decision point we're making from a free will position is like a turning point. And how far you turn will determine how ready you are to make the next turn with the next decision point. So you might think you're just making an innocent turn, like, in this place I'm just gonna, just avoid having a cry. Innocent thing to do. But then you make that turn, and Now you're on a different trajectory of your life, and then something else comes up, and now you're feeling like, I want to do something else with my sadness. Like, I want to feel happy instead of feeling sad. So now I make another turn, which might be a moral turn. Like, I decide, I can have sex with anybody I want, whenever I want, that kind of thing, because that cheers me up, makes me feel good.
Or
So-
just sexually project.
or
I'm just
just-
going to sexually project.
Project somebody. And sexual projection at somebody eventually potentially leads to sexual activity. So now I've made another turn, and another turn, and another turn. And before I know it, I might have been taking a fairly straight trajectory with my life, but then and if you think of down here as the hells, and up here is the heavens, sort of thing. Like, up here is love, and down here is everything opposite to love. I'm making little turn, little turn, little turn, little turn, and each time, because they're small turns, I'm not seeing the enormity of the direction I'm heading. I'm just thinking, it's just a little choice, a little decision. And this is what's also happened in the environment. Most of us don't realise how damaged our environment is, because over centuries, mankind has made these little turn, little turn, little turn, little turn, little turn. And what we're looking at now has nothing to do with what was here 200, 300, 400 years ago, right? And we're just thinking it's normal when it's far removed from normal. And it's the same with regard to our feelings. We make these little turns, little turns, little turns, and then 10 or 15 or 20 years down the track, we go, how in the hell did I end up here?
Yeah, I can have no relationship or bad relationship with my kids. I can have a drug problem, a porn problem, all this kind of pain in my life. I don't like my job even. I feel bound financially. All these kind of pains that are everyday pains. And we can't say, oh, no, that's because someone made fun of me when I was little.
It's actually because I made a whole series of small decisions and choices over a period of time that led me down a track. And each choice and decision was based on an immoral choice, a sin-based choice, and it led me down a track to end up where I am now. Right?
And each one of those little things that you were talking about, is each one of them is that emotion that we need to work through to clear it.
Well, you could almost
Can
say
you
that each
higher?
point of decision was a point in time where I could have gone, hang on a sec, all I need to do is deal with my grief and I will stop making these decisions.
Yeah.
So you could almost say every one of them was a potential turning point, and yet it had to get more severe before it became such.
But if you hit, like, let's say, fifth down the row, one
Yeah.
of those spots,
Yep,
it will, and finally say, okay, no, I'm gonna confront it and I'm gonna deal
Yeah.
with it, right?
yep.
Does that gonna also clear the previous five? Like, will it
Well, it
clear the chain
depends, doesn't
reaction?
it,
Yeah.
on whether you recognise or are aware of the sins you've now committed or not.
Uh-huh.
See, a lot of times what you try to do is you try to blank out from your mind that you did a whole heap of sins, because what you're thinking in this space is, I'm hurting, but you're not considering how everybody else is hurting from what you did. You're only considering how you're hurting from what you did. So what you do is you get to that point and you go, I'm hurting now, I've got to stop. What do I stop? Oh, let's go back and try to deal with my, parents making fun of me about something. Let's go back to that, right? And so you try to go back to that, but now you're skipping over all the false beliefs that you've created, and you're skipping over all the things you did in the sin to harm others.
So each of these things I did is harming not just me, but other people.
Yeah.
And I actually have a justification, don't I? I have a spiritual belief that's supporting all of these actions.
Yeah.
So in order to correctly deal with this, I can't just jump back to feeling that, because I've already had this spiritual belief that's leading me further and further and further away from that. I need to deal with my justification or my spiritual sin that we keep talking about. I shouldn't have to feel this, or if I feel this, I will die, or other people should deal with what they did to me, not me. All these things cause us to rationalize and justify all of these
But
things.
that's in addition to all these rationalizations.
Yeah.
So you have to also deal with these rationalizations on top of all the
Yeah,
other
Well, when you get-
impacts
when-
that it has.
Can we say though that the easiest thing to deal with is that? The hardest thing to deal with is all the things you now did, avoiding that.
Avoiding it, okay.
And this is
That's
why
the point,
it
yeah.
creates so much pain, because you're actually acting and justifying and justifying and acting and acting and justifying. So you're actually reinforcing falsehoods to yourself every time you do that, because you're saying, that's right, I can't possibly feel it. That's right, they should have to deal with it. That's right, mine is a special case. I should be able to just eat the ice cream and go hiking or whatever you do. And all of that is saying, I can't possibly deal with this. When you clear all that stuff away, you'll be like, oh, what a relief, I can feel this and it won't be hard.
It'll be easy.
So that's why you say go to the spiritual belief first, because
Yes.
that's this.
That's right.
That's your spiritual belief.
Your spiritual belief is causing all your sin. The original
Yes.
problem that other people sinned
Right.
with you, that's not the cause
That's not the sin.
of all your sin. It's the choices you made dealing with that original thing.
So
That's-
what are those spiritual things? Why do you choose to do all these things? What do you tell yourself in order to justify doing all these things? That's the beliefs you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're emotional and they're usually spiritual
Yeah.
in nature.
Always.
What's
Yeah.
the spiritual? I'm so sorry. What's the spiritual sin for choosing not to grieve?
Well, it
There's
depends on
You
quite
don't
a
get
lot.
sex.
There's quite a lot.
Oh,
I just listed some of them. Other people should have to deal with what they did to me. Mine is a special case. Doesn't anyone know how hard this is for me? Which is a lack of equality.
It's impossible for me to feel.
I-
Is fundamentally the biggest one, because you're sinning against your own soul's ability to feel.
and it's
God-
not a truth.
It's not a truth, no. God created you to feel. In fact, every experience you ever have will be stored as feelings. And remember we said yesterday how the sensory apparatus works and how mixed with the emotion, and that creates the memory of the experience and that gets stored in your soul? Well, that's what we're talking about here. It's like there's this whole sensory apparatus that occurred to have an experience, but now you're creating experiences that are sin-based experiences. So not based upon anything other than trying to avoid your soul, right? And whenever a human attempts to avoid what's in their soul, they will definitely create a large number of sins. Yeah.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. Because you're sinning against your own soul. Jaren, and then we'll go to Karen.
I don't know if this might be more helpful, is if, for instance, like if we sort of go backwards and say, oh, so here's this big sin in my life. And I wonder how I work backwards to finally feel through all of those things, to finally get to that. I'm willing to use what I shared with you yesterday as an example for everybody else to go, oh, okay, so this is how we do it if we have
You're
this.
presuming you're doing the right thing in sharing, in what you're sharing.
Okay.
Oh no,
And you're not.
you're talking about a sin that you're engaging now, and you're saying, how do I get back to the original thing I was
No,
avoiding?
you're saying you have an example to give.
Is it of a sin or of a way that you've dealt
So
with
go
it?
ahead and example, and we'll
Let's-
pick it to pieces for you.
Let's hear
Perfect.
Where you come from. All right.
Feedback, yep.
Okay, so
I
we're
need
going
it,
to start
I need
then
it.
here at the
Okay.
sin.
Because I need to be more aware of my stuff, right? So-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, this is a good thing.
It is.
All right,
I
let's
was
do this.
only half joking when I said it's a dream come true.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so, all right, so, the example I wanted to use.
Yes.
So that we could go work backwards to see where it goes and how to even heal my own thing.
Yeah.
So about 2021, is when I engaged in, an affair with a married man.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that's an effect.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, that is my sin, my biggest skeleton in my closet.
No, it's not the biggest, but
No,
go on.
so
Okay,
your
that's
action,
what I'm
Your-
aware of.
your
It's the
action,
biggest one and you're aware of,
Yes.
which is not the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
so your action is an affair with married man.
So you could say that's the effect of your sin.
Okay.
It's not actually your sin because that's the action you're taking.
Yeah. The sin, remember, is an emotion that exists inside of you. And in the case of an affair, there's often lots of different emotions inside of you, isn't there? As to why you feel you need one.
So why do you feel like you need it? What's your
What did
justification?
it give you?
Yeah.
It made me feel alive.
Okay, so it got you out of feeling numb?
And bored.
Were you and bored? Yeah, so you felt more
Excited.
excited.
Yes.
Yeah, made you feel excited.
Special.
Special, okay.
I
Excitement.
feel special, yep.
Excited.
What else?
Connected.
Connected to him?
Connected like
To yourself,
to myself.
to your feelings, to your sexual feelings or just other feelings?
Other feelings like
What kind of feelings?
like we share the same this is the first person in my whole life
Yeah.
where we love the same music. Like all music I love, he loves like the
Yeah,
majority
crap,
of it.
total crap. Go on.
Yeah, there's no one else on earth who likes it.
Or like, we have the same love for poplar trees, and we have the, like, this person's just
Yeah.
like me,
Yeah, no, you fake most of that anyway,
Yeah.
but go on.
So,
Did you hear that?
did he fake most of it?
Yeah.
Well, what would you do? You get sex and it's, it's exciting.
I like pop.
The sex is not exciting. That's the worst part of the
Well, obviously it was for him enough to cheat on his wife.
Yep. Can I say I feel seen? Is
Yes.
really what you're
Yes.
talking about there.
Can you see it's not really about sex in a way, is it?
Yes.
No, it's about other things.
Yeah.
What about how are we justifying having sex with a married man or having an emotional connection with a married man? Why is that okay to you?
Because he was disconnected from his
Oh, so you're helping him out. Well, this is a common thing. I'm not. This is
Yeah, so you're like providing
a service.
something for him that his wife isn't providing. Is that your feeling?
I don't know if I thought that thought.
Yeah, but it's a competition feeling between you and another woman, right?
Yeah.
Can you see
I'm
that?
winning in the competition is really what it is.
I'm providing things that his wife can't.
I can't understand why he can't spell. I can't spell. Competition with women. Let's. I'm the better woman, the chosen woman.
The chosen one.
Yeah.
The one he thinks is more special.
For sure.
That kind of thing.
Chosen.
Right.
Special. Yep. What else?
What else? He's the funniest person I have ever like.
Got a good sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never laughed harder and as much with any human being ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're really saying it's okay to break morals if I feel good, if I'm laughing.
If I'm happier.
Yeah.
If it makes me happier.
I never consciously thought of any of
Correct.
these things.
That's right. But we're
Yeah.
trying to look at why you're justifying it and sort of reflecting to you what you're saying about it.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that when you're in it, see, the addiction just drives you to the action. You barely even think of what the motivation is, and most of us don't even know our own addictions. But we sort of just have them every day without even. And in fact, most of us think they're just a part of our personality.
Yeah, we think that's me. You know, like I'm being
Yeah.
seen. He's seeing me. This is a part of me, we think.
Yeah, but it's actually, oftentimes we engage addictions without thought because there is no thought to it. There is only feelings to it. And so we do things that later we regret, but while we're doing them, we don't regret them. We think they're good. That's why we do them. Yeah. Now, Mary's only listed a few because we could list more.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what is it you wanted to say?
I guess because when we were looking at the other stuff
Yeah.
of like how that small thing became all these other things,
Yeah.
and now I'm pretty sure most of us are wondering, okay, so how do we, when we look at all the problems and issues and sins in our lives, how do we work backwards and heal and process so that we can,
Well, let's do it, shall we?
Yeah,
Let's do it. So here.
or like, do we go backwards or no, we don't go backwards?
Well, when you say backwards, it's really forwards, but
Yeah.
anyway, let's do it. These things indicate that I have certain beliefs
Yes. That's what I
that,
was
that are
trying
actually false from God's perspective, but that I have them. So what are the beliefs that I have?
So these are some of the feelings.
So these are the
you have.
feelings
But what do you?
where I felt like, oh, I did it because it made me feel this good thing and that good thing and this good thing and that good thing. All good things is what we're thinking.
I'm chosen. I'm a special
chosen,
woman.
I'm special, I'm excited, I feel seen, I feel
There's a
understood, there's a connection, we laugh together,
yeah.
with joy, there's happy, I'm happier, it's better. You see, all of these things I'm saying to myself are good. All right? So that's the very first thing I need to bear in mind is that I generally don't do things that are sins unless I think they're good.
I think they're serving me in some way.
Yeah, I think it's great that I do it, right?
And also, I've never experienced this before.
Okay, yeah. So never experienced sort of some kind of emotional connectedness with a man in particular, I gather.
Well,
It was a man.
sorry, yes.
So the action was the affair, which you now feel a bit like, oh, a bit ashamed of. Have some Well, when we're talking about it, you do.
You
but
feel a bit
don't
like,
with the rest of
but,
us.
but when it's happening, you're not actually yet feeling about it.
Because you're feeling all these things which you think are good,
Yeah.
right? So that's a very good indication you're in addiction, right?
Yeah.
That you're feeling just good about doing all of these things because it all makes you feel good. But what fundamental spiritual beliefs must you have
To
have the affair, justifying the affair for this purpose?
This
Chris,
is
you want
I
to
can
say?
make my own moral rules.
I can make my own moral rules.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to write the
So
sins
I'm my
in
own
red.
lawmaker. Back to the still on the board. Was yeah.
Oh, do you want to?
No.
I'm my own lawmaker.
Yeah.
Morality, societies or gods doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I get that, I'm allowed to do that.
That's
But
But if I get pain and suffering, then I think, oh, that was bad. But if I get what I think is pleasure, I go, oh, that was good.
morals don't apply if I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there superiority?
As long as I'm happy, by the way, isn't it? So there has to be also a moral, a spiritual belief about me versus the wife.
Yeah. What is that?
So what's that?
Superiority or
I have to feel like I am superior.
Yeah, that's good.
I am superior.
Yeah. And that my joy outweighs her pain.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like that my joy is worth her pain. Yeah. It would be different, of course, if you said to the guy, I'm not going to have sex with you, I'm not going to have this relationship with you, and tell your wife. He goes and tells his wife, they break up, and then you start your relationship. That would have been different, wouldn't it?
Would you
But-
have done it then?
Probably wouldn't be so exciting then.
Sorry, could you repeat what you just said?
It
This
would
is why we
be,
have a recording.
let's say I recognise that I'm attracted to the guy. I go up to him and say, I'm attracted to you. I want you to break up with your wife and be with me instead.
But isn't that a sin too?
Why is that a sin?
Because you're forcing somebody or you're putting
No,
them.
you're just presenting an option
It's
to
an
him.
option. Yeah.
And he's allowed to make a choice to leave his wife, isn't he, and be with you?
My joy is more important than her pain. I'm going to put that. Yeah.
So would you still want it then, if he left his wife?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
question was,
that's
would
the
you still
question.
want it if it wasn't exciting?
If it was in the if I presented that in the beginning,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that ended up being presented
Yeah.
afterward.
Yeah.
But by that point, because I was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of reasons why as much as I still want to be with you,
Yeah.
I don't, because if we are together permanently,
Yeah.
eventually we'll have to come to the truth with your kids.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, like, so
Yeah.
this is the woman I had an affair with.
You have to deal with life.
Yes, like,
And you
I
were in
left
a-
all of you guys for her, and also the
Well,
pressure.
exactly. You didn't want life. What you wanted was, what did
It was
Elsie call it?
fantasy.
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 You wanted a fantasy.
Because if you wanted reality, as soon as you started the engagement with him, you would have had that feeling. You would have thought, well, if I have an affair, then how's this going to work out? And
Yeah.
but you were sort of seduced by these other exciting feelings.
And then also that massive pressure of, oh my goodness, if you actually leave, now that we've engaged in an affair, to begin with,
Yeah.
if you were to leave your family, for me,
Yeah.
I would feel this immense pressure that
Why?
we have to make it work. I have to
Why?
make it work. Because if I
Because you
don't-
destroyed somebody else's relationship.
Exactly, and so I need to make sure you're like.
But you're already
happy.
destroying their
You've
relationship.
already done that. You just want the illusion that you haven't done that.
Correct. So what's another one? The spiritual belief. If I can make out something, it's not real.
Yeah, my definition of reality
Truth,
is,
reality.
you know, my version of reality.
Remember
is
the God emotions here. See how many of them match? I am the lawmaker. I am God. I am better.
I
Humility is
define
weakness.
truth.
I define what is real. It's all happening here. Makes sense?
I want fantasy, not reality.
It's all coming from? Yeah, really coming from a state of arrogance, but also from a state where you believe that your joy is worth the sin. There's a fundamental concept that the sin is not going to bring me pain.
Yeah, my pleasure won't lead to my sinful
My
pleasure.
sin won't lead to pain. Is the fundamental concept. Not to my pain, but trust me, it's going to lead to your pain. Even though you think it's not, there is going to be quite a lot of pain coming from this kind of events.
I almost feel like it's a half question. What if she had a sexual relationship with a man before she found out that he's actually married or that he's in a relationship? Because that happens quite often.
Well, that's true, it does, but you see, why would I enter a sexual relationship with a person that I barely know? Can you see there's also
There's a
moral
whole
problems
other
with
set
that?
of beliefs.
You see,
like
like if I meet Mary and I think she's attractive and everything, and I think she's pretty hot and whatever, and I want to, get together with her. If I was loving, I would get to know her life, what she does with her life, who's in her life, what
I love,
her
what I
history
do.
is,
Yep.
where she comes from, what she's currently doing, her job and her passions and her desires, and I wouldn't have sex with her before I knew those things. You understand?
Yeah.
I would at least get to know that. Now, if I am driven to have sex with someone I barely know, can you see? There's got to be a sin in that, because I'm not knowing the person. I'm not wanting to be with the person because I know them or understand them. I'm wanting to be with the person because they meet my addictions, which is very selfish. So all this hookup stuff, it's all sin, because I'm not even wanting to know the person. I'm just wanting to get a sexual or an emotional feeling, which is not the same as loving somebody. So if I love Mary and I would want to get to know her, I'd want to understand her, I'd want to understand how she thinks and how she feels, and what drives her and what passions she has, and I would, in that process, sooner or later find out she's married. It'd be pretty easy.
But often this internet, they...
Where do you live? Take me to your home.
They have the 20 questions, which are literally what and some of that's right at the beginning.
Yeah, but again, you
get
can't
those,
just-
and people lie.
Of
And then
course they
after a
lie.
while, you find out that those 20 questions of like...
Take me
how
to where you
know
live.
Sorry?
Take me to where you live.
To where I live, Washington, D.C.
No, I
No,
mean,
but that would be something, and you wouldn't,
you
like,
want to be lied to.
Yeah.
So don't give me this crap that you're being lied to. You want to be.
it's like, oh, you did the checklist, therefore we're fine.
Yeah, that's right.
And
It's like,
when does that
I
even
want
work?
this relationship, so make sure the checklist works for me. It's like, and if he needs to lie to do that, then you'll let him lie.
Well, my
And then
issue is I am afraid of this.
Yeah.
So I am out of it. Like, I don't participate in it because of that, because of the fear.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you,
lie
it's
to.
easy enough to work out whether somebody's lying.
you spend 2 hours with someone,
But-
sincerely, you
but
would know a lot more than what the checklist says
But no, you're not
already.
going to be having sex with them in 2 hours.
No,
No,
but
it's
I'm saying you mustn't even be
3
spending
months
2 hours
later,
with them.
after you've got to know the person and seen where they live and see where they work and rocked up at their work and seen where they live and rocked up where they live and all those other things that would have gone on if you were really interested in having a permanent relationship with this person, you would have done all that, right? Then you would of course know a lot about their life. And it's very hard for them over 3 months to, if you are Well, where do you work? I want to go where you work. I'll rock up for lunch with you and have lunch with you at your work. Well, where do you know, so everybody in the work is going to know he's got an affair going on. Now you want to go where he's home. I'll make you dinner at home. You go, this is where I live. Where do you live? You know, I'll go make dinner at home for you, or you can make dinner at home and I'll rock up at your home. How about that? Sounds like, and he's going, no. Pretty obvious. No, that's not going to be possible. And then every time you hook up, it's like, oh, it's a motel room or something. Pretty obvious. What's going on there?
It's
Very
just,
obvious.
I live in Washington D.C. where it's
Yeah.
mostly military, so you cannot go to their work. No way to go in and have
And
lunch with
now
them.
we're just
I
using
know,
these
I
forget all that.
I want to
don't
go back to
forget all that.
this. Yeah.
I kind of understand from this exercise why we just want to go to cry about the thing from
We did
childhood.
childhood. We just like put it in this little box, Jesus, my childhood.
Right.
I want to cry about that.
And then
little
I don't
thing.
have to do
Can
all
you
that.
see that many people who hear Divine Truth initially go, oh, all I've got to do is have some cry about where I've been hurt. That's all I've got to do. I'll have a cry about how I've been hurt. It'll be over and done with. No, it will not. Where you've been hurt is not your sin. It's somebody else's. Where you've done all the hurting of other people, that's your sin. And that's the thing that's going to end up in your pain and suffering. So when you try to go, oh, I'm going to do with my childhood thing and all done and isn't that lovely and now I don't sin anymore and all that crap.
Oh, who's ever done that?
Yeah, it does not work. And the reason why it doesn't is because you have not seen all the labyrinth of sin-based concepts and beliefs, spiritual beliefs, that are now driving all behaviour that you're engaging that is your problem, not somebody else's problem.
So, Jaren, if we look at your example again, you've had the affair with the married man, and then you go, okay, well, I think that's probably a sin. You know, you sort of think, oh, that might be my
But the feelings are it's
But-
not one.
The feelings you're in are like,
So
no,
can you see-
it's awesome.
We're talking about it as a sin, but you don't even feel like it was one. Not in your feelings.
Not in your feelings yet, you know. You can sort of see logically of this action is probably not loving, but when you talk
To
about
someone.
it, to
To his family, you know.
to his family, I suppose you feel like.
But
But
also to
when
him
you,
and to yourself.
but when you talk about it, you don't see how unloving it is to you and to him.
Yeah.
And you're not yet connected to all these beliefs that are
That
actually
drove it.
driving you to justify the action.
Yeah.
These beliefs are the spiritual sins.
Yeah.
And when you deal with them, or as you deal with them, you might encounter some childhood experiences that you had
Which
shut
caused you to
down,
believe those
that
things.
caused you to form these spiritual sins. But there's no sort of jumping from, oh, I had an affair with a married man, here's my childhood issue. Because that, you wouldn't know yourself then.
Yeah.
I was that the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I thought this whole time.
Yeah.
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 So you want to say that louder?
Yeah.
I thought, I've been listening to this since 2016 and everything I thought was go back to my childhood.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Yeah.
I knew that I did things and I knew that was a problem, but I didn't know that I had to go to those first and go to there.
That's why we come on the tour.
That's why we have to talk.
Because we can feel that a lot of people
Yes.
feel that way.
Yeah. And, you know, like, essentially, you are going to end up as a child feeling some things, but
But it will be a subsequent result of dealing with your sin.
yeah,
Yeah.
wanting to become sincerely growing the desire in yourself to become a person who loves others and loves yourself will cause you to excavate a lot of these spiritual beliefs. And in that process, you will heal a lot of things from your past.
Yeah.
Not just your childhood, but your whole life.
Because if you think about it, the childhood issue, you might connect with some grief and sadness and other things, but if you think about it, these things which your childhood obviously you've justified from your childhood that you're allowed to create these beliefs, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't even have them. So at some point in your history, you felt that you're allowed to create these beliefs and you're allowed to have them and you're allowed to keep them and you're allowed to base your life on them. At some point that's happened, even though many of you will say it wasn't conscious, but it often was. It often was conscious. So I sort of feel like, well, morals don't apply if I'm happy. Most people have that feeling by the time they're 12 or 13.
And there's a lot of anger. In dealing with that, you'll deal with a lot of anger. Because you feel like, well, that means I'm never happy. You have all these kind of ideas about what morality means. It means me being unhappy. And so you think they're opposites. And there's a lot of emotional work you do as you go through, what do you call that? Deconstruct them.
Yeah. Sort of unraveling the labyrinth or unraveling the big puzzle, which has become your sin, Your
worldview.
Could you walk us through like the steps of this emotional process? Because I can imagine this, like you start out with anger, like I want to be my lawmaker, or I want my pleasure.
Jaren is at the beginning.
So you start out with it was really good. It was good fun.
It is kind of good, yeah.
That's where you start.
But then do you go to the anger, like I deserve this good?
No, because the anger will only come when you don't have the addictions met anymore. So
Jaren's not angry yet because she's still engaged in this.
Yeah. And you're not going to get angry until you realise what you did is it got penalties. And until you realise what those penalties are. You're probably not even going to get angry yet, right? And so, there's a lot of steps before you get to anger.
And also, it's not linear necessarily. It's not like, I'll do this and then I'll do that.
And can I say to you, Chris, your mind is saying, give me a rule, give me a rule, give me a rule, give me a rule.
You're like by step. Elizabeth,
I don't want to have to feel through it all. If you just give me a rule, I'll be able to work it out with my mind. And remember that all the sin is in your heart, not your mind. So that's going to be a problem if that's the attitude. You see, you're not going to probably deal with any of it with that attitude because you're going to think you've dealt with it or think you've found it or think that it's worked out or hope that it's worked out. And in your mind, you can get very hopeful that, it's all over now. I've done a bit of crying a few days here. Should be all over now. That kind of thinking, you can get that in your mind, and then once you get that in your mind, you're going to dismiss the rest of the process. You're going to have to go through a process where it's at the moment, there is a thing of, it was good. So that's just where you start. You're thinking, with all your addictions, you think they're good. And if you didn't think they were good, you wouldn't do them. So you do think they're good. So with all addictions, you think they're good. And then what you need to do now is go, is it good?
And guys, this is why you need God's principles or God's guidance in this, because otherwise you end up just crying about stuff that, the affair ended, I'm so rejected. This is, that's my childhood issue, it's rejection. But no, it's, I think I'm God, it's really fun to deal with, and this is where having some education from God and from us about the principles can help you to unravel your false beliefs, your addictions. This is a lot of the work you're going to do.
This is the hard work, which most people don't want to do, right? Because this is the work you have to do without God's love. Because you can't get God's love until you become sincere about it being a sin. So this is the work you're going to have to do without God's love. You're going to have to do it not necessarily on your own, because you have helpers, spirits who are trying to help you. God can help you through the conscience. People on earth who want to help you through things. But at the end of the day, you will have to do it alone to the point where you're repentant, and then God's love can come. Right?
It's like God wants you to understand how powerful your will is. You've engaged your will, not just to have the affair, but to develop these beliefs and let them run your life. So that's how strong your will is. You're going to have to engage your will to undo those things, to reach a place of repentance. And at the end of that, you will be very confident of how powerful your will is to create destruction, to create in a good way, to bring about happiness. But if you just sort of have a little cry about your childhood and everything's fixed, you really haven't understood your will, have you?
The principle of responsibility is big in this too.
Yeah.
Lack of responsibility
for actions.
It doesn't matter.
Didn't matter, no.
Doesn't-
And
It doesn't
My
mean that I'm
actions-
gonna hurt the wife or,
as long as I'm happy,
yeah.
who cares?
My actions shouldn't have consequences is really part of this spiritual beliefs
Yeah,
here.
it is. Yeah. And then, you know, every action you take, no matter what it is, has a consequence. Everyone. God created a universe where there's consequences for everything you do.
So that's
every
good
single.
or bad?
Sorry?
Good or bad?
Good or bad. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. It depends on how. If it was sin, the consequence is going to be bad. If it's love, it's going to be good. Yeah. But there are going to be consequences one way or the other. Yeah.
It's so important to understand the law, isn't it? I'm getting that more
Yeah.
and more and more.
Yeah.
Because that obey, disobey line, that law is not wavering.
It's
No.
not.
It's not wavering. I've figured that out. That is not gonna waver.
No.
So it does make a
But
lot
some
of
of
sense.
our emotions are, it should.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
We've been brought up
Exactly.
as children to believe
Yes.
negotiation with mum and dad works sometimes.
If I self-attack, mum backs off. So if I self-attack with God, the law should waver. Or,
That's right.
you know,
Or I should get what I want, because I
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah, that's right. And if I screamed enough with my mum and dad, I did get what I wanted. So if I scream enough at God, He should give me what I want too. You know, those kind of feelings
Yeah.
that we all have, which are all spiritual beliefs that get established, joined with those feelings.
Yeah.
I just want to comment. So one of the checks I have for myself when I'm aware enough, I would say, would I do this again? So in this case here, I would ask myself, would I do this again? But if I obviously, if I would do this again, I haven't addressed anything.
Yeah, you haven't
that's right.
done anything.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the comment was, one of the checks that Jean does for himself is, would I do that again? And if the answer is yes, I haven't dealt with it.
Yeah, good.
A question is, when you're praying to God to help you about all that stuff, like in the stage before you get to divine love,
Yeah.
does God have any like preparatory substance? Like I know you said He helps with the conscience and other things, but
Yeah.
is it like how does that work from?
Whenever you have a true, sincere longing to address something, but you're not yet in a state where you can receive love, God will make sure you get extra spirit assistance when you pray for it, and make sure that other things occur, like on earth in terms of attractions, that God creates some attractions for you so that you can actually deal with the issue.
So that you can become more aware or more awakened, you know, move through that aware to awaken
Yeah.
process.
So let's say you prayed about solving this as an issue, and you prayed about it sincerely, that you want to see some of the results of your actions, right? Because at the moment you think all of your actions are happy, but then let's say you met the wife accidentally
Oh, God.
at the supermarket, right? And she looked at you and then come up to you and started screaming at you, and you know.
Or even just she didn't know when you ran into her, you would feel something.
Yeah.
And then imagine she knew and you met.
Or imagine that you're driving past accidentally sometime past his work, and you see his wife and his two children. I don't know if you but let's say he did, right? And then you started to feel about what's it like for the wife and the children that he's had an affair with me. You know, these kind of things can help open you up to what it felt like for other people other than you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, but for the most part, most of us go, I don't want to know any of that, right? Because all I want to know is it was great. And so we don't pray to be enlightened, to be shown the reality of anything we've done.
When you
But if you were sincere, you could, couldn't you?
If you sincerely ask to be shown the full consequence and full implications for you, him and everyone else
Yeah.
of what you've done, you would meet people who their husbands had an affair, you
You'd
meet
have
other
a
people who
dream.
had affairs, you'd have dreams.
You have dreams about your own condition, seeing yourself in the mirror,
all kinds
all
of
sorts of things, and how it affected your condition. All sorts of things would start coming up if you were sincere and wanted to actually work through the issue.
So this is like praying for truth, really, where you're praying for more awareness. You pray, and God definitely answers those sincere prayers.
Is that, because that's my question. I think after so many years of listening to you guys, it just now hit me that what does it really mean, sincere longing and prayer?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've been sincerely longing,
Yeah.
I've been praying, and now I'm questioning that I've really been.
Well, see, if we're not engaged in this process of like, how am I loving others? How am I sincere?
If it's all about me,
If it's just like, I want my pain to go away, God, you know.
am I really very sincere?
It was a little bit deeper, but maybe not as far as that.
Yeah.
You know.
But also if you think about the idea that I can long for God's love and receive it, if you think about that idea for a moment, you got to remember that God measures every sincerity, every feeling you have, and He measures it perfectly accurately. The law, which is a set of mathematical principles, measure it down to the decimal point, you can say, of how much sincerity you actually have, you know?
Can I know that? Can I feel?
Well, it's very hard for you to know your own sincerity.
God's response.
God's response is proof of your sincerity. So if there's no love coming from God at all, even though you think you've had sincerity, it means you did not. You understand?
Yeah.
So the measure is the outcome. Now, of course, a lot of people then go, oh, well, I'll get some love from the Spirit instead. Well, you can do that if you want, but it's not going to be from God and it's not going to help you very much. Right? So a lot of people want to fool themselves then. They're not feeling the love from God. And instead of going, oh, that's because I'm insincere, because of my inability to become aware of sin, I'm insincere. Instead of saying that to themselves, they go, oh, it must be because, God's not hearing me very well, or, I think I'm sincere, so I'll just keep trying the way I'm currently doing it, because I think maybe just God's not listening today. And none of these things are true, of course, but these are all things we tell ourselves, right, in order to avoid the reality that we're not receiving, therefore we're not sincere. Does that make sense?
Sort of, yeah, because I feel like I am asking for the sincere longing. I'm not getting it, so my internal thing says...
So you're asking for the sincere longing, or you're asking for love?
God's love,
right?
And also for longing.
God's not going to give you a sincere longing.
No, that's an expression of your will. Now we're back to your will and desire.
Yeah, so this is why I asked the difference, you see, because if you're asking for love now, that is something God can do, but if you're asking for you having a sincere longing, He's going to wait until you have one.
That's up to you. That's up to you, daughter.
Too, and this is how it never happens.
That's right. A lot of times we start to go, well, I don't know if I do have a sincere longing, but if I ask God for a sincere longing, maybe He'll give me one. No, He won't, because a sincere longing is a development of your own free will. You're not going to get one by asking for it. It's going to be something you're going to have to develop for yourself, right? And God will measure it mathematically whether it's happening. So God knows when it's happening and when it isn't. There are moments in your life where you might have one and you will receive a response, but there'll be long periods of your life when you're in a state of sin where you think you have one and you won't. And you've got to work through your sin in order to have one.
And if you don't receive a response, you go, okay, I've got more work to do.
Yeah, and that's when I get stuck. I'm like, okay, but I thought I was doing something, so what am I doing wrong? And then it's like the guilty feeling kicking
But
in.
often that's just anger of like, no, I am sincere. Why isn't this
Why is it
working?
not working?
Yeah, and also the whole, what am I doing wrong? Well, it's quite obvious you're not sincere, so that's what you're doing wrong. But let's be more
It's so obvious
specific.
when you say it, but if I'm doing it, it doesn't come out.
Yeah, let's be more specific. Like, when you say I'm doing something wrong, do you really want to know what you're doing wrong?
I think I do, and I tell myself, but apparently not, because it's not happening, right?
That's right.
That's right.
And that's where I'm like in this catch-22.
We're not sincere about dealing with our sin. That's what we're doing wrong. We're not sincere about our... See, most of us have beliefs about love that are completely flawed, right? So one of the beliefs we often have about love is that if I ask for love, I should be given it, even if I'm not sincere. Because that's often what happened in your childhood, right? You asked for something and you got it even when you didn't really feel like you wanted it.
You just put on a pretty face and went, oh, mommy, please. and then you got something, and it wasn't really, you didn't have a feeling of it being a gift, or that it was just something you knew. If I put on a cutie face, someone will give me something, and I'm manipulating, really. And that's not, sorry, go.
No.
That's not a sincere longing. That's trying to manipulate and learning how to manipulate. And most kids
and
learn
how
it pretty
arrogant
young.
it is that you think you can manipulate God. Like, as if like God knows every thought, every feeling, and you reckon you're going to get away with that? You know, but with people, of course, you can do it, right? You could do it with your mum and dad. In fact, many of you learnt by the time you were 5 years old how you could manipulate your mum and dad. You even learnt how to manipulate your mum against your dad and your dad against your mum. You even learnt that, right? No, God, dad and mum, is together, one being, and you're not going to be able to manipulate one against the other, or God against himself, or God against his laws, or, you know, it's all going to be mathematically measured perfectly as to what's going on.
Sadly, it's an arrogance we learn from when we're very small.
Yeah.
And this is part of developing sincerity, is coming to understand, I see myself now. Yeah. You know, I think if I self-attack enough, God's going to take pity on me, because that's what, you know.
My mum and dad. Yeah, entitlement. Like, as long as I had a feeling that I deserve it, then I should get it.
And there's no gratitude with that.
There's none.
And this is something you'll come to learn. You can't receive God's love at all until you feel emotionally that it's a gift, that it would be a gift, you know. And yeah, that's powerful to come to recognize. All those other times I was praying, it was like I felt like I should get it, or it was a demand, or it was an antidote from my bad feelings. You know,
I want to be rescued.
When you realize, my job is feel my feelings. That's up to me, nobody else, not Jesus, not Margaret, not Emma, not God. No, it's all my job, that bit. Then you feel like, wow, and then if someone loves me, what a gift. Because I'm not seeking that to avoid anything inside of myself.
But it's not God's job to feel your feelings for you, nor is it God's job to expose them for you either. It's not God's job for you to discover what your sins are. They're all your jobs. They're what you need to do. Sin is your creation, not God's. And so God's not going to take any responsibility for it whatsoever. So if you feel bad from your sin, well, too bad. You're going to feel bad from your sin because you sinned.
That's what you said earlier. There's going to be a lot of painful, uncomfortable feelings in this process.
And this is where we see a lot of times in our childhood, when we started to feel bad, mum and dad came to our rescue. Oh, my child's feeling bad. Oh, poor child, you know, we'll help. Like, so something happens at school, which is a result of the child's own behaviour. But you're going, it's too bad, I'll help you out with that. You know, our child wants to go to football, I'll help you out with that. A child wants to go to, what do you have here? Baseball, I'll help you out with that, right? Not, I'm going to help the child work out how it's going to do that for itself. We have the feeling from childhood that our parents will help us out with everything. Will help us out because basically, fundamentally, they should live for us and not for themselves, right? And so we have these developing beliefs as a result of this, spiritual beliefs inside of ourselves relating to God, which are fundamentally saying, God should act like my nice mum and daddy acted, right, towards me. And when God doesn't, you go, what's wrong with God? Like, you know, I'm asking, I'm sincere, what's he doing? Like, he doesn't care for me, or, you know, this is where all these sort of feelings that he doesn't care. But actually what he does is he cares that there are certain things that are your responsibility. He made you the pinnacle of his creation. There are certain things that are your responsibility, and there are certain things that are his. His responsibility is create the laws. His responsibility is to develop a system, be responsible for the fact that he had a lot of children, and put a set of guidelines in place, which he's done in the universe, that they all have to live by. That's his responsibility. His responsibility is not to give you love. That's a gift, right? Not a responsibility. But see, many of us as children have come to believe that it's our parents' responsibility to love us. But it's not. It's our parents' responsibility to parent us, to educate us.
To create laws that help
Now-
us to understand ourselves and our free will.
Now, of course, if they wanted to educate us, they'd probably be driven by love to do it, right? But God doesn't demand of every parent on earth that they must love their children, right? In the sense of must give the child a whole heap of things which God would not give them, right? So God expects the parent to love the way He loves his children, which is all about helping the child develop self-responsibility, understand their own power, understand their own personality, understand their own nature, and come to enjoy that. You know, that's what God does with you, right? So that's what He would like, as parents, us to do for our children. But the problem is most parents don't do that. And instead what they do is they start rescuing the child from its own bad behavior. And then, of course, when we start praying to God, we think that God, being the nice daddy that He should be, will rescue us from our own bad behavior. And He won't. And so then what happens is we start going, oh, it's like, do I want a relationship with God if I am going to have to be responsible for my own bad behavior? Like, I want a relationship with God where He fixes my bad behavior results. You know, the results of my bad behavior. And you know, this is a fundamental flaw, of course. And this is also a fundamental flaw that drives a lot of people's prayer, so-called prayer. But it's not sincere. Sincere prayer is, I created my sins. I am going to have to identify them, work through them, fix them. Now, God's only going to help if I am repentant for them. He's only going to help then.
Thank you.
What if we go through the sin and all the actions or reactions as a result of what we did? How do we know if God has forgiven us for that sin? So we repented and we felt and we cried and we did all that. How do we know that that egg mark on our soul has now disappeared?
You'll feel it instantly. It's like you'll get to the stage where there's no longer any pain that you feel when you think about the event. There's no longer any feeling inside of you that causes you to feel that the same behavior would be acceptable. And it's now easy for you to live without that behavior. So instead of struggling against your addictions, you will actually find it easy to give it up. Do you understand? Because the reason why it's there is no longer there. So naturally you're going to give up easily. So all this struggle that people do and all this keeping on trying and all this stuff is all proof that none of that's happened. So it's very easy to measure when God's actually forgiven. Because when God's forgiven, you will feel differently, completely differently. You will not ever be attracted to that sin again. You will never do it again.
And not as a result of detunement.
No?
You'll feel more connected to yourself.
Yep.
But you won't feel drawn towards the same action.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You will know when God's forgiven you. Yeah. And when I say you will know, you will feel it, and your actions will display it easily. It won't be a trial. It won't be hard for you to do the loving thing anymore on those issues. It'll be easy. It'll be automatic. And you'll notice it in yourself that it is. You'll even notice it. You'll see, it's such a breeze now to act in a more loving way in this situation. So let's say this particular issue of having an affair, let's say the whole sin was dealt with. There will never be another time where you'll feel sexually attracted to a man who's not your soulmate. Right? There would never be a time where you felt that it was good for anybody, even your friends, family, parents, children, anybody to have an affair with somebody. When I say have an affair, what I mean is have an affair that begins without knowledge of all parties involved. You understand? You would have to, if you're going to develop a relationship with somebody, I'd have to, if I want to develop a relationship with Mary, I'm going to have to let everybody in Mary's life know that that's what I want. Right? And I would do that automatically because I know that it's the right thing to do and I feel that it's the right thing to do. I would like if Mary's still living at home with her parents, I'd let them know. If Mary had a family around, I'd let every one of them know. You know what I mean? Let them all know.
And it wouldn't be like, oh, I've got to do that.
It'd be I want to.
Oh, I feel happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Yeah.